style. But for me, it's like, it's good to get out of the house, and you never know what you're going to get. And so when it comes to me, everybody always talks about what they do for work, and then I bring up AI. And I would say 50% of the time, there's somebody who is very against AI. They temper how against AI they are because they're sitting right across from somebody who does AI, and they want to be at least somewhat, what would you say, polite, even though they're just like, no, AI is terrible. It's going to take all our jobs. It's interesting to listen to that person talk and see how, it is true. Like AI has issues. Like it's not perfect. It generates content that isn't perfect, right? It has errors in it. And how much people who hate AI focus on what it does wrong, which makes sense, right? But, because like if they weren't focusing on what it did wrong, they definitely would hate it. But then it just like seeing how much they ignore what it does right? Like they only focus on, well, it like did this thing and like it had these mistakes in them. And it's like, yeah, and then fix the mistakes, like, I don't know, like it just did a bunch of work for you. Then, I think where it gets a bad rap though is a lot of powerful people who want to do AI who don't really understand it, or even people who are using it, like get rich quick, not even get rich quick, get your homework done quick, type of solutions, right? Where there's college students who are just dropping their work into ChatGPT and getting their work done for them. Whereas, I think that for a lot of us, and the goal is not to, I guess some of the goal is to have AI just do all of your work for you and just collect the money. But really, trying to build out productive systems that'll do a good amount of work for you, put some guardrails in there, do it responsibly, and have AI work for you. But it is always just, for a lot of my work, I'm working either with people who are pro AI or I'm doing these coaching calls. And so I'm always surrounded by people who are into AI. And then I'll have these moments where I go out to the regular public and I'm like, oh yeah, people are against this. And it always makes me stop and wonder, like, do they have a point? And I think they have a point, but I still think it's probably a good idea that we use one of the best technologies and most powerful technologies of our lifetime to, enrich our lives and make ourselves more productive. Okay, let's go through. We'll say hello to some of the newer people on the call, and then we will dive into N8N a bit. We'll start from the bottom. Russell's not new. Hello again, Russell. Reed, I think, is new. Reed Repa, you can turn on your mic.
Hello.
Hi. Are you new to these coaching calls?
Yeah. I've been in the background doing the recorded stuff, and so I thought I'd pop on to get started. Yeah.
Cool. What inspired you to join AI Profit Boardroom and the coaching calls?
Well, to apply AI to what I'm doing in my business. And,
what kind of AI solutions are you looking at?
What's that?
What kind of AI solutions? What kind of workflows are you trying to have AI help you with? Are you interested in LLMs or image generators, or what are you looking for?
Well, I think of myself as more new. I am looking at LLMs and image generators, and I know a little bit about all of it, but I'd like to know more about all of it. And the automations, of course, is something that I don't really know anything. And I think that was probably the first hook that appealed to me, and how I can know more about what's possible with automations and everything else. Yeah.
It's interesting because it's like automations were here for a while, for like over a decade, and then AI came around and people like, oh, automations, like they're even more interested in automations now. And for some of the automations that I see people doing, they could have done them before AI, right? Or they're adding AI to it extraneously. But yeah, automations are great if you can get them figured out right. And it's that getting them figured out right part that is a little bit tough. For LLMs, are you using ChatGPT? Are you doing Claude, Perplexity, Gemini? What are you getting into?
Well, those are the four that I'm interested in. I started in ChatGPT, but I found that I'm really enjoying Claude and its voice and reasoning, and how I've set it up so that it has my outbound marketing voice down the way I like it. And so that's really convenient. I'm finding that the amount of time and how quickly I can turn around an email or even a text. I actually put my text through it too,
Yeah.
because it does a better job of expressing what I want to say than I do, which is really kind of absurd to think about in a way. But the point is that my intent is carried in the message and received in the message clearly, and people are responding to it. They're saying, "Hey, I read your email and I just got that. I got uplifted, I got excited, and so it's really, that's a great success for me that I've done over the last 3 weeks. Gemini has been interesting, especially because it's plugged into the Google workspace system, which I am based out of now. And so I've been enjoying that and looking how, as I begin to do more sophisticated things, how that might be important to have that in place. And then Perplexity, the deep research and the sharing spaces. I definitely have that as the research layer. With Gemini, I think is maybe a better intelligence layer. And I'm just I can use Midjourney, but and everyone's doing video and all this other stuff, and I think that it's a good idea to really understand that. I do have some projects where I want to use AI to identify the different body types. So this is a doctor that understands body types and how they affect the diet, and also the psychology. And if I can train an AI to identify or recreate the various body types or avatars that look like them, then we can do some interesting in terms of teaching all about those different types.
Yeah, that it's interesting that, like, I think one of the things that AI can help us with is these different ways, like you're saying, like, people have different body types, right? And because there is a significant amount of variance among people, but then when you look at things like, say, going to the doctor or nutritionist or exercise, a lot of times these systems are built for the average person, right? And they will diagnose things or build things out just because it's like, well, there's so many people, we really can't have a tailored solution for every single person. And so if you go to the doctor is going to evaluate you based on, are you the average human being out there, right? And so it's like, they're not really accounting for various aspects. Like you're saying, like, you use this, then like now we have solutions for more people, right? And I think that is one of the things that AI can do, is that instead of having everything be a system that's built for the average, now we can get variation for different body types or different thought patterns, right? Like for people who have ADHD or who are on the spectrum, or who some of the stuff that Google does is so that blind people can read and deaf people are able to communicate and things like that, And even like you're saying, like being able to express yourself really well in an email and get the communication that you want is more difficult than we think it is, right? Like taking our thoughts and putting them into the words, and it's like, yeah, like I know what I want to say, but here's the best I can do and approximate it, and then just having it formatted for you a little bit so that, like you're saying, like if you use AI wrong, I think you become a worse communicator. If you use AI right, then you can express your ideas a lot more effectively and efficiently.
Absolutely. That's what I found over the last few, it's been about a month now, and it's really transformed how I'm doing that. For sure.
And then if you're, so are you basically only really started using AI a month ago, essentially?
No, it's, I give myself maybe 6 months, but of course, in the beginning, it's not, it hasn't been, I'm much more serious about it now, and I certainly study it and applying what I'm learning. It's really been like a quantum leap. You start this thing, and then all of a sudden you're just so miles away from where you were when you started, and it just keeps going, and it keeps in an exponential fashion.
Yeah. If you're interested in automation, the two things I would say is, one, you don't have to stick to one, but I would try to focus on like one different one specific way in which you're going to set up your automations. Like, are you going to do them in Make or Zapier or N8N, which we use a lot, or vibe code them out, maybe test each one, see how we're doing it in the coaching calls, and then try to focus on one of those as being your avenues for automation. And like for what you're doing, probably to start off, like they'll all be fine. As you grow and decide you want more things. So basically, Make and Zapier are going to be the easiest to learn, but then like be the most limited, and then N8N, and then if you do vibe coded automations, then you can do anything you want with those. And then I would automations sound great. I think that they are. They can be great. They can save you a lot of time and resources. I do think that too often, and everybody else who's been on the calls before certainly says, people try to automate before they know what their workflow is, or before they know if they have a successful workflow. AI and automation are two separate things. First figure out how AI is going to enable you, and have the right prompting, have the right system in place, so that you know that it's actually doing what you want. And then from there, once you have the AI working and everything is going correctly, and it's actually providing you value, then try to automate the process. If you try to figure out your AI solution and the automation at the same time, that's where you'll run into issues.
So that makes sense to me.
Yeah. All right. Well, welcome. Thank you for joining, Reed. Hopefully we will see you around. And then I have
Awesome.
Miko.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Reed. Miko or Miko or Miko. Are you new? You can turn on your mic, or I could go on to the next person. Okay. And then,
if you said Mago.
Mago is different. There is, I wouldn't have gotten your name that wrong, but Mago, you were next on my list. You're new to the coaching calls. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm new. So hello, everyone. So I just joined 2 days ago, I think. I got the yearly package.
Cool. What inspired you to join? What do you want to get out of the coaching calls? What kind of AI are you interested in?
Well, there's a few things. The main thing I'm trying to accomplish right now is that for the company that I currently work, I'm trying to see how we can use what you guys have here to keep rolling out AI. So like, I wanted to ask in this call,
Sure.
do you guys have anything with like Copilot Studio? That's what we use. I noticed that we use in these trainings a lot of Gmail, but we use everything 365 in my world. So I just wanted to see if there's any resources in the community where I can start looking at that from these specific things that I just mentioned.
I think that there are. I don't know off the top of my head. You can ask. Does anybody else in here know? I know that we do a lot of Google-based stuff. You're right. Like when I look at a lot of our content, but if anybody else has run into Copilot Studio content, we might have like a whole section on Copilot. I know that I haven't done any coaching calls on it though. So we're definitely way more Google heavy than we are Copilot.
Yeah, I messaged Julian, so I'm just waiting for a response to see.
He would know better than I would, but I will say that no matter there might be again like a good like section on Copilot that works for you, but predominantly a lot of it is Google, and Google is really kind of taking over when it comes to this stuff.
Got it. Okay. Well, I'll just look around and wait for Julian to respond then.
Is there anything else? So is everything you're trying to do in AI Copilot based?
Right now within the company, yes. The other thing that I'm trying to do is create an outbound agent for prospecting. So, kind of replacing the SDRs that I have right now. But like, from what I read on the TCPA, like you got to get written consent. So I'm working on that internally, but trying to have that ready, plus knowing how to create the outbound agent at the same time as well.
The one thing I will tell you about Copilot, and this is from some of my usage of it, although also a lot of it is from reporting, Copilot is not known for having very good AI. Like it is going to be, like you'll see other people who are using say like ChatGPT or Claude or the Google Gemini system, and it's like they're getting really good results. And you're like, yeah, why isn't that working for me? I'm in Copilot. Copilot is not a leader in the AI space, I would say. Now, things could change, and this is a rapidly evolving world, but Copilot is not your best solution. And that is part of the reason why probably we don't do as much with it, is just that like when I use it, I feel like it's like a year behind.
I do have Gemini. The company got me Gemini
Okay.
and ChatGPT. So if that doesn't work, I was thinking because we use Salesforce as our CRM. There's a lot of reports that I download and I have to review. So I was trying to see if there's a way for an AI agent to download all that, or a workflow where I just tell it what reports it needs to download and then find a way to like feed it into Power BI instead of me doing it, because it's very time consuming.
Yeah, nobody wants to be the one doing it. Russell, what do you got?
I have a question. I had Salesforce for many years. I was a big Mark Benioff believer from the gate when it first in inception. We had it, and I built a whole business within their workflow and relationships. You're married to the Apex code, and you can't deviate from that. But they have been touting the AI solutions within Salesforce on their marketing. Don't they offer you guys any good solutions within that platform? Are they making any headway there? I ditched them 10 years ago because they ruined my business. I couldn't build anything off their workflow. I ran into a dead end on their Apex code. There were things that you just couldn't do. So I was just worried about the new people joining in on trying to build businesses on that, what their experience has been, because they've been talking about AI being the end all be all for how they're new.
I mean, Salesforce is very clunky. There's a lot of fields, right? So you got to really know what you're doing to be able to use it. So, I mean, it does everything I need it to do, but I'm just looking for it to automate more of the tasks that I'm doing.
Megan, do you have any AI inside it? Are they offering you that?
No, not really. No. And then we use Oracle connecting with Salesforce, so it's like the ship is already built. So like, there's no like going back. There's not much that I'm going to be able to do to like get the company to switch or something like that. So like at this point, I'm just trying to figure out how I can just deal with the tools that I have and then just make it more automated.
You can build reports within workflow and relationships and do an output, and those outputs can be put into anything like a spreadsheet. From a spreadsheet that can trigger any kind of a workflow, whether you're using Claude, ChatGPT, and certainly Jeff knows better than I do how to pick it up from there. But you can output into a spreadsheet, right? You know how to do that within Salesforce?
Yeah. I can pull all the reports. That's not a problem. My thing is like is seeing if somebody's already doing it to where like the AI can run the report instead of me hitting the report and then downloading it and then having to fix the Excel and then loading it up into Power BI for leadership to see it.
Maybe a browser like Comet or one of the other browser AI tools can scan.
Well, I hear that the AI browsers are not very secure and they're dangerous to use. And so I'm not about to do that for the company, but that's the concerning part with that. Right now we use Chrome for it.
Yeah. Back to Jeff, sorry to interrupt.
Two things. So Salesforce has Agentforce. So that is their big thing that's their future. They're putting all of their budget and resource into Agentforce, which is their own agentic system that works within the Salesforce ecosystem. And they've built out they're supposed to be easy to use or like to use their agents, but similar to what you guys both said, it's a lot of fields to fill out. Like you have to know how to use their Agentforce system. However, they do have like Agentforce experts who are supposed to be able to help you and set up your agents for you. This is like, again, all of Salesforce, like all their eggs are in this basket. Like they're moving all of their people over to Agentforce. And so that's what they're interested in. Supposedly, the two things that they are big about is like data safety and security, and then also like providing proper guardrails on the output so that like it doesn't have like swearing or not safe for work content or whatever, or that's factually true, things like that, so that it's grounded in reality. So they're really trying to build out an AI agentic system for Salesforce. It's called Agentforce. I was working with a client who was using and getting into it. Again, like if you talk to Salesforce about what they're doing, they're all about Agentforce right now. That's their big push.
Great, thank you for that. I just wrote it down, so
yeah.
I'll see what's up with that.
And then also somebody dropped this in the chat, and this is always, a possible solution, which is, vibe code out. Have you tried any vibe coding yet?
I'm not too sure what that is either.
So vibe coding is essentially, the LLMs will allow you they'll like help you write an application or write code, write software. And it's way simpler. And then people call it vibe coding essentially, because like you don't need to sit there and actually do hard coding yourself. You kind of just use vibes and you code things out. Now, there are pluses and minuses to that. We do vibe coding on Tuesdays and Fridays, so you can kind of see how it works. And it is a potential solution for you where, something like this, once you get used to it, you could possibly vibe code out your solution in a few hours. And just have something in-house that works for you. But I know, Yasmin, you have your
up or down.
You could easily vibe code it yourself, and if you don't want to, I wouldn't mind working with you and making it for you for free and just handing it over in return for like a review. I've been vibe coding like everything ever since I learned how easy it was. I've just been vibe coding like everything in my life. I do have a degree in Bachelor's of Science, and I did take coding and whatnot in college, and I do reverse engineering. So like I take apart other people's software. So I do have some understanding that probably makes it easier. But yeah, I could totally vibe code that in a day if you wanted to like sync up, or you could vibe code it yourself, just putting the offer out there.
No, I appreciate that, Jasmine. I'm assuming, obviously, we're all in the community, so maybe we can connect in there.
Yeah, I'm in there. I don't even know what my name is in there. It should be Yasmin, but yeah, totally.
Cool.
And I'll look you up, and then we can go from there.
Awesome. Okay, and then Jonathan, I think you're new. You've got the cool Iron Man statue in the background. Yeah. What brings you to AI Profit Boardroom, the coaching calls about AI got you interested?
So I got into this world because I'm in the crypto world and I wanted to expand my business. Like, I'm a business owner and I see business opportunities. So my thought was, okay, I'm going to go out and help small and medium businesses to integrate automation and AI. And then I'm just down the rabbit hole. I realized that it's not that easy. There's so much. So I know where I'm going to this way because I love it. I'm not sure yet how I'm going to do it. I want to learn as much as I can. Obviously, when I'm going to expand, I'm not going to be the one coding or vibe coding or whatever, but I want to know what's going on behind the curtain.
Yeah, and I would suggest, even if you're not going to vibe code out your final projects, you should probably, I feel like everybody in the call should try a little bit of vibe coding, for like an afternoon or a weekend or something like that. And we do it on the Tuesdays and the Fridays courses, just to kind of like show you how to get started if you have questions on how to get it up and going. But it's a little bit, I'll tell you, like, coding was developed by a bunch of people who aren't great at communicating, right? I would say that they could use AI to help them with their communication, and they do now. And so getting into coding at times can be very frustrating just because it's not explained very well or explained very technically, although the LLMs can walk you through all of it, and help you get through some of the more sticky parts. And then now it's like, yeah, if you just go to them with your concept, if it's super, super complicated and you need to launch it and have enterprises use it and, really come up with like data security, it becomes way more complex. But if you're creating a proof of concept where you're like, hey, I have this idea where you said you were into crypto, blockchain technology. Yeah.
Well, I'm a broker, so I buy and sell crypto. So I find people who want to sell, people who want to buy, and I just take the spread.
Right. And so if you wanted to create, say, like just like an automated tool that will help, it'll buy and sell based on certain parameters on the different exchanges, you could vibe code a solution for that in a day, and like an afternoon or something like that. Now, is it going to be really sophisticated and have extremely intelligent buying strategy and it won't lose you money or anything like that? No, I don't know about that. Like, that might take more research, but just like a basic system that will show you, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, like I could have AI and automation do some part of my workflow. Again, like once you kind of get your feet wet and understand how vibe coding works, creating solutions like that are pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. And let me see. Yasmin, are you new to the coaching calls or have we met you before?
I joined before, yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right. And then I think that is, oh, and then Dave. Dave, are you new to the coaching call? Dave, I'm new, but no mic or camera on. Oh, okay. Into learning. Let's see. Learning workflows for small publishing biz, no code, prefer Google ecosystem. Great. Yeah, we're seeing a lot more people who are into the Google ecosystem. They're basically, they have, something for everyone, right? Like they have image generation. They basically have I think probably the industry standard for image generation. Video gen is pretty good, but I feel like other companies like Runway or Luma have some cooler video gen solutions. And then Gemini is pretty good, pretty good. And then just integrating with the rest of the Google ecosystem is really useful. I feel like they haven't taken that quite as far as it can go, but like with G Drive, with Gmail, with Google itself, there's going to be some pretty powerful interactions and integrations there. Okay, I think that's everybody. Yeah, cool. Let's go into our end-to-end workflow. So let me share screen. Okay, and so this is our workflow as it stands now. We are going to make this a little bit more complex, but this is just our starting point. And if you were here last week, hopefully everything is working now. It was a little bit, I just fixed this. Let me double check what the issue is. Oh, this is like the older version, I feel like, right? Because wait, it should have, because I switched this out. That's right. Hold on.
Can I just ask, is it record? Do we have access to this after the coaching today?
Yeah, we're gonna, I'm recording now, and then they publish them. It takes a minute for them to do the publications. I stopped sharing for a minute just so I can put back in the API key. What happened was I had an issue with the API key, then I fixed that issue with the API key, but then somebody wanted me to give them this template, and so I had to take the API key out, and okay, yeah, now we're working again. Okay. Then I will go back and I'll share. Cool. So as you can see, so basically this is this first step. So this allows us to schedule it, although I'm just manually getting it to go right now. This says search Google. That's because we originally were going to do Google for search, but we're using this service, SERP API, which is doing our searches for us. And so right now, we're just having it find information on AI and automations. And so you can see in here, right, where it uses Google as a search engine, AI and automation is the search term, and it is searching, and it is finding these results, right? So you can see this one, AI and automation will take 6 of U.S. jobs by 2030. Computer Weekly, execs see AI and automation as long-term strategic something. And so it is pulling the link, the title, the source, date. It has this snippet in here, and some other information. And so it's pulling, I think, how many results are we getting total? 10, something like that. And so it has all of this information. And so this is a freemium service you can use, SERP, if you're trying to do something like this where you're pulling articles, you want new articles from the internet. There are other solutions for this. You could use the Google API directly, whatever it is, you need to have some sort of way. And some of this could get, and maybe we'll do a little bit of that, just changing some of the parameters here. I could make it a little bit more specific or give it more search terms to look for, right? Especially because at this point I am only using, I think you get 100 searches a month, right? And so if I was going to do, say, a newsletter, even a newsletter every day, right, I would still, that'd only be 30 searches a month once it's up and working, right? And so I could maybe have it search for AI and automation, or also Gen AI or LLM, and pull in more topics so that I have more choices for generating my newsletter. Somebody had their hand raised. Is that Yasmin?
Will we have access to this flow?
Yeah, so I gave in the last coaching call, not the last one, maybe the one before that, I gave everybody this template. I just saved it. I will try to do that, save a little bit of time at the end. But the problem is, sometimes these workflows while we're working on them are like mid-flow. So I'll also post them basically once they get to a good point and it's actually working. And so yes, I will update and give out versions of this flow as we go. And then so we have this node here, which is getting us all the like raw information, and this is extract and structure articles. And so this is pulling out the articles and just structuring them for them to go into and then this is generating our newsletter. Right in here, we're probably going to want to do a little bit of updating, maybe make our prompt a little bit more interesting. So it's telling you you're an expert newsletter writer specializing in AI and automation, create an engaging, informative newsletter that summarizes the latest development based on these recent articles, right? And then it has the articles and the JSON. So like the one thing that I do think needs to get figured out here is that there's only so many input tokens that I'm able to input into one of these. So it is possible that really what I want to do, and I'm probably going to ask it to do this first, is do a first step where it takes the articles and maybe one article at a time, it does a summarization, and then from there, it grabs those summarizations and then takes those and then turns those into a newsletter. And so right now, again, like I'm just doing proof of concept. I had to see if I could even connect to SERP API, which was its own issues. And the same thing, can we even connect to this, OpenAI to make sure that we were getting anything? But yeah, so as you can see, we are here. I'm going to make this, the goal for today is to make this a little bit more complicated so that it's not so simple, and then add image generation as well, and so something in there. And then this is formatting our content into HTML. We may or may not use, I think that we're going to need to have something that does do this on some level, but this I might also want to get in here and does this HTML actually work for our newsletter? Is there an aspect when we connect to our newsletter service, it'll just do that for us? Okay, and then finally, this is preparing the final newsletter data, and it's taking the HTML content and putting it all together. Okay, so what we're going to do, and then we're using prompts to workflow, right? And so just like anything else, let's have the AI help us and do what we're looking for. And so if you're not familiar, so in NAN, you can use this prompt workflow solution. If you have the paid account, you get 50 monthly credits. Every time you type something in here and you press this button, that's a credit, and that will do building. You can do ask. You can ask as much as you want. It's not going to actually change anything on your workflow, but you can ask questions to get something more clear. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is first I'm going to go back to this, which was our workflow that got generated. Okay, and so I'm going to tell it to update the workflow. The workflow is working now. I would like to make it more complicated. Right now, and source articles. Okay. And so what I'm doing here is, when you are prompting your builder, you can just put in your prompt here. I mean, that's what it's meant for. But like whenever you want to get something that's like sort of specific like this, I like to do, prompting for the prompting. Have an LLM generate the prompt that I'm going to put in here so that it's starting off with something that's a little bit more formatted, structured, kind of like what we said at the top, like communicating, having AI help you with your communication. And then this also sort of gives you a good way to see a summary of what you're asking for. Create a workflow that generates, okay. And so this I have this like workflow is already created. And then yeah, like this is a way for you to check to see, are you making sense with what you're doing right now? So right where it said create this workflow, it's like no, let's make sure we're on the same page. The workflow. So update the workflow. After the extract search results, add a loop over item node.
No worries.
Articles individually. Add a Gen AI node that summarizes each article.
Here, lock this in there just behind this stack.
Okay. And let me see. Who is that? Rebel Joker,
Okay.
can you put yourself on mute? That's a maybe. Oh, he left. I don't need people to leave, but okay. Update the existing newsletter. Use these filtered summaries instead of raw articles. Okay. This looks right. So we'll see how this goes, and boom. And so, I mean, the good thing is, again, it's going to build everything for me. Now that we're already at this state, it should be somewhat more straightforward. We're not going to have to worry about API connections, right? Because we're already connected to everything through API. It may do some wonky things, but you know, that's part of the process. And then if this is able to figure this part out right now, then the one other thing I would have it do is generate an image using the image generator. And then we should be closer to having something that makes sense as far as what we want for a newsletter content-wise. And then next time, as I said, what we'll do is we'll add the MailChimp API to this. We'll check how our HTML formatting is going, and then hopefully get that looking right where it's sending out the newsletters we want. And then, you know, from there, we should be pretty good. We can containerize and deploy and see how that goes. Okay. All right. So as you can see, it's a bit longer now, where we have this first part that's summarizing each article, then it's selecting the best article, and then now it's generating a newsletter off of those articles. And so and this is something that's similarly what we're doing with the YouTube project. And so if you ever hear the terms, we'll say like POC, MVP, things like that. And when you're building, I do highly suggest you go the POC MVP route. And what do I mean by that? POC is proof of concept, right? And when you are first putting together a workflow, either in N8N or through vibe coding on Python, or however you're doing it, I highly suggest that you do sort of the, I was going to say the minimum viable product, but that's the MVP, and that is a more complicated version. But like the most minimal version of these things, right? And so as you saw, like the first step that I did was like, okay, like have it pull whatever, like pull articles from SERP API and then run them through ChatGPT and generate newsletter content based on that. And like, I didn't really have more specifics for it, but I wanted to, you know, first, you know, figure out connecting to the SERP API and having, you know, figuring out the API key issues and getting around that. And then the same thing, GPT is pretty easy on N8N, especially when you're doing builds to workflow because of the credentialing. You know, it'll set up the nodes. Those almost always work, but you can get in there and make the GPT nodes more complicated, right? And that's what we've done here is make it so that they have more pieces to them, and, you know, break up the task into more steps. And universally for content generation, I do think that you should be having more than one. It can be GPT, it could be whatever node in here, where, you know, instead of it going from here, just take these articles and write a newsletter for it. Now it is summarize the article, select the best articles, generate a newsletter for it. And actually, here, let me start finding, oh, extract structured articles. Can't use already. Ran into a problem. Okay, input all. Oh, interesting. So I haven't run into that before, but that just allowed me to replace the code. And so it had this issue, and I asked a question, and then it provided a solution. Let's see how that went. Oop. All right, let's see what happens now. Ask. Input item is not a function. Line 1, type error. That seems like my suggestion now. Do you want me to come up with a different suggestion? Yes. And this is part of the process, right? So it will set everything up for you, but man, does it like to get little things wrong like this. You can take is to change the execution node of the code node to run once for all items instead of modifying the code. One runs for all items. Okay, let's see if that fixes it. Nope, okay, I did that. Let's try again. Then if this doesn't work this time around, I might ask the build to fix this. Well, let's figure that out. What did it come up with? All right, and then we'll try again. No. Yes. So this is like the one thing I don't like with NAN is very visual. It can be really easy for managing your credentials, let's say. When it has issues, I'm trying to think, its troubleshooting can be somewhat frustrating to get around. And I feel like with Python, it's almost easier to, even though that's more complicated for the coding. Okay, and then and after this one, I'm just going to ask the build to try to rebuild it and then see what's wrong. And then we'll go from there. Up, up, down, down, left, left, ping pong, almost there. Okay. And then, nope. Okay. Structure. Oh. I have to switch over to build. Yeah. And this will probably work fairly well, but then has to run a bunch of different times. For a step like this, where it's doing summarization, a lot of times you can use one of the cheaper, simpler LLMs, right? Summarization isn't that tough of a job. Typically, we would have actually like used an NLP model for that. If I was going to be building this out and making this like larger project, I'd probably use an NLP instead of an LLM just because of how simple it is. Okay, and then it all went all the way through. So, and then in general, so like, what is this? GPT-4o is probably overkill, actually. And I could probably try a different model in here and get basically the same results if we're just doing summarization, right? And that's what you can see it's doing it here, where it's taking one of these articles and it created this summary for it. And then select best article. Here, you know, we'll see which one, you know, I feel like it's fine. You might be able to use, again, like a smaller model for this. And then let's see. Message completed. I'm able to review. Oh, okay. So it completed, but then as you see here, it didn't really complete. Let me check here. So it is generating these summaries, right? So these are the different summaries from the articles. So we're getting that portion, but then it is not right here, actually. And this is like, when you're going through these, you can look at the schema, which is fine, but a lot of times like clicking on the JSON or the table can be useful to see what the actual work was. And so this node, although it passed everything, did not give us what we wanted. And then this is probably no output data, right? So it didn't even get anything into here. So we're cool. Again, I don't want to circulate this workflow. I will probably do a little bit of work on this workflow, and then tomorrow I will share it and we will have this portion at least fixed. I'll get all these pieces up and going. And then again, we'll do the image edition and then actually generating a good, well-formatted HTML newsletter. The image generation should be pretty simple. I mean, I say that and then it's going to have problems, but it really doesn't have too much complexity to it. As long as it's getting a prompt for image generation, then it will generate an image. Okay. And then thank you everybody for showing up today. As I said, tomorrow we will be doing Instagram auto commenter. And then we'll be using Claude to do our vibe coding.